It's just a number, right? How many automatic qualifiers for the Big Ten? 4, 1? Does it really all matter? Well, to Ryan Day, it does, because he spoke to ESPN yesterday, and he says he thinks 4 is the right answer. T-Bone and Tyvis right here on The Fan. I'm Matt Fontana in for T-Bone this week. He, of course, is Tyvis' pal. So Day's sitting down with ESPN, and I believe it was Adam Rittenberg that wrote the article yesterday. And Day said, we're in the Big Ten, we have 18 teams, and we have some of the best programs in the country. I feel like we deserve at least 4 automatic qualifiers. So we know that this is going to be a contentious point coming up here on the expansion on the college football playoff. And, you know, if the SEC and the Big Ten get 4, and then it would go 2 each to the ACC and to the Big 12. And then it would be a group of 5 champion, and then you fill it out kind of from there, and you go off to the races of how this is going to lay out. The other thing is just a straight 5 and 11. 5 conference champions, 11 at-large bids. And Tyvis and I both think, or I've always felt, Tyvis, that I think 5 and 11 is enough. You kind of mentioned, like, you feel like you've come around to that, or you've always kind of had that same feel that 5 and 11 was the best format for this?
No, it was a coming around.
You came around.
Because
okay.
I was with the Big Ten and the SEC are the best 2 conferences, and they're going to – the champion is more than likely going to come out of those 2 conferences. If you did it for the next 10 years, I'd say 8 to 9 of those champions will probably come from the Big Ten or the SEC. You know, given the fact to throw Bodie a bone, I said Notre Dame probably a win 1. You know, that would be the one team. But
I think they're undefeated as the independent conference champion for like the past 25 years. Good job.
Do y'all win? Bodie, do y'all get like T-shirts or something for like winning?
First off, Tyvis, we don't play for conference championships. We play for national championships. And second off, we actually have had a few 3 and 4 season win seasons in there that I think, you know, whether it was BYU, Army, Navy, maybe even UMass. I don't actually think we have every independence championship in the last 25 years. We probably have most of them, but not all of them.
Well, Bodie, you just got to remember that Tyvis doesn't like Navy. We discussed that earlier. So, like, there's just a conference bias. He doesn't like the triple option with Navy, so the independent conference out there.
Listen, every year people give Notre Dame crap because they always play the service academies, but I feel like every time the Buckeyes play Navy, things get interesting in that final quarter. That's all I'm saying.
I didn't want to bring it up. Was that game not 20-17 going into the fourth quarter? I don't want to say anything.
Listen,
I didn't want to bring it up.
Wait a minute. Listen,
you guys won. You guys got it. We got it.
About that. First of all, it was JT's first start. Joe Thomas Barrett IV was making his debut as a starter. And, you know, things got off a little slow. And you know what? That triple option thing, man, I'm telling you, it gets fatiguing just seeing the same thing over and over and over. It gets boring. So they was able to break some decent runs off on us every now and again. But at the end of the day, the Buckeyes got the dub. That's what matters the most. And I had like 16 tackles in that game. So there you go.
It was not Tyvis' fault. And you guys held him to 17, so, I mean, that's a winning score.
And you know what? They say that any team that plays the Navy, typically the team that plays the Navy and they go on to play a regular offense, they lose. We lost to Virginia Tech the next week.
Next week. Was that Brewer at quarterback?
I don't recall.
Yeah,
I try to remember very little about that
game. Fair enough. Well, you know, and it's funny because when we talk about the automatic qualifiers of, like, yeah, you're not going to hand one to, you know, again, the quote-unquote independents because, like, Notre Dame deserves it. Tyvis, my thing is the automatic is not going to be needed for the Big Ten. Like, I am such, and I'm going to say it, like, I'm a bougie Ohio State Big Ten fan where, like, we are in one of the best conferences in college football, 1 and 2, probably SEC Big Ten. Ohio State, even on our down years, are still considered one of the best teams in college football. And I sit here so much and I say, and I know this could come back to bite me in the butt, but I'm just saying, I don't think there's going to ever be a year that Ohio State's not considered. I don't think there's ever going to be a year that the Big Ten is not going to be considered for 4 to 5 slots. So it's like, I don't want to say it's a moot point because I understand what Petiti and what even Ryan Day are pushing for. They want the lock. They want the 4 so they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to think about it. But it's even just coming from a strict Ohio State standpoint, I don't see a year now that it's expanded that you're either not a borderline lock no matter what, or at least in the conversation. That's all I can ask for.
If Ohio State ain't in the conversation, it's going to be some furniture moving down here in Columbus.
Man, you're not going to be good.
So that's never going to be the case.
That's never going to
be. You know, and I still think about other teams in the Big Ten. Like, there's no point where I feel like Oregon shouldn't be considered one of the best 16 teams. There's no point where I feel like, you know, the Wolverines, if they got their quarterback situation figured, they shouldn't be one of the best. Penn State shouldn't be. Like, so to me, I don't understand why they need the automatic qualifiers when you have teams that's basically, you know, there should be one of the top 16 teams. I think if you go back, if you take a poll from the last 10 seasons, though, at least those 4 schools probably finished somewhere in the top 16 on the poll. So they would have been in the CFP regardless. I think the Big Ten is fine. I don't know why I get why they pushing it, because like I said, they want to sell those games where you play the 1 and 2 play in the championship and then 3 plays 6 or whatever, 4 plays 5. Like, they want to sell that to you know, viewership. So I get they want to make money behind it, but at the end of the day, you're going to get 4, maybe even sometimes 5 if USC get their stuff together. You might get 5, and I'm with you that if you go with just the 4 automatic bids, you may not get 5 because they might be like, no, y'all, we gave you 4. The rest of them goes to the other conferences.
Because what happens one year, let's just say, I'm going to say Illinois, right? Let's say one year Illinois gets an automatic bid, but everybody knows that they're like, you probably shouldn't have made it, but you got the automatic. Then you come back the next year, and you do have 5 teams that legitimately all make it. Everybody's going to sit there and be like, yeah, well, we spotted you Illinois last year. We're not going to give you, Nebraska. You know, we're not going to give you that this year because you got the 4. You got to make do with the 4 that you got. And then the other thing that Ryan Day was talking about this with ESPN as well, where he goes, we basically have the best teams in the Pac-12. Like, we took the best teams out of the Pac-12, so we should get kind of like that conference allotment. And I was like, well, okay, you'll get it because if you go with just the 1 automatic qualifier, here's the thing about the Big Ten. You're cannibalizing yourself. Nobody will care about the Big Ten championship game.
No.
At least if you have the 1. The Big Ten championship game, all these conference championship games are like on a lifeline right now, as is anyway, right? But if you have that 1 automatic one, then maybe at least there's some intrigue, right? Let's say something real, and we've seen it before, something kind of fluky happens. And remember when Northwestern was in the Big Ten championship game, and everybody's like, well, how the hell did they get there, right?
Well, that was East and West. That'll never happen again.
They're never going to happen again. And that's kind of the hard part of it, where I don't know if the Big Ten would ever put a team in there that wasn't going to go already. But imagine if they did.
But see, this the thing. So say they do the 4 automatic bids, right? And you know how I said that they're going to have 1 versus 2, obviously for the conference champion. So that's 1 spot. And then they'll have, 3 play 6 and 4 play 5. Okay, so my thing is, what if the 5th seed, let's say the 5th seed lost that game, but they finished the season as 10-2. Like, now they're not going to make the playoffs because they lost that game. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. To where if they just left it as it is, it'd be 1 less game that they have to play, which is good for the athlete to have 1 less game on their body. That's 1. And 2, they still got a chance to make it. You still got a chance to get 5 teams from your school or your conference in the CFP. So I the more we talk about it, the more I dissect it, I'm really leaning hard towards the 5+11. But I do understand why the conferences like the Big Ten and SEC, they want to have those automatic bids because you want to get 4, and then it makes you likely to schedule those tougher games because it's like no matter what, even if we lose these games, we still gonna make the playoffs. So I get it from that standpoint too.
I think it waters it down. There's too much. And in reality, it's interesting that adding more is going to actually, I think, create more problems because you go with the 5 and 11. I'm going to trust that the committee is going to get the right guys in, the right teams in, and maybe I'm asking too much of them. But I just feel like that gives them the power that sometimes they have screwed up and sometimes they have taken advantage of. But I think giving them the right power in this and getting it figured out is probably the best for everybody. Well, I'm excited for this because on Thursdays on T-Bone and Tyvus, you guys like doing the list. I've never done it before. We'll do it. We'll jump into that. Coming your way next right here on The Fan.
Fan traffic.
From the Atlas Butler.